Today what I'm going to be talking about is REV limiters. Engine manufacturers, car manufacturers, truck manufacturers, dirt bike manufacturers, quad and ATV manufacturers, jet ski manufacturers, Sea-Doo manufacturers, all different types of engine and vehicle and off-road type thing, watercraft stuff, yeah, outboard engines. Geez, they spend hours, days, weeks, months, years, sometimes developing and torture testing and going through all types of tests with their engines that they make. So, and they sometimes spend up to millions of dollars. Yes, it's crazy, but it's true. So what they do is they run all these crazy things on their engines that they make, and they make sure they know at what certain RPM their engine starts to develop any kind of damage or wear or even explode. And then what they do is they set the REV limiter significantly below that RPM to where the engine might start to cause some damage. So, like let's say this big block 460 here, its REV limiter is set at 5K, but it could probably actually rev to like 65K without causing any, well, actually it would start to cause damage, and that's why they set the REV limiter below that, so it doesn't cause damage. So you could hold it at the REV limiter all day and it'll be fine. Not literally all day, you wouldn't want to do that, but it's not going to cause any wear to hit it. Let's say a diesel, for instance. Diesels can probably rev at like 5K and some even a little over, but they usually set the REV limiter at like 3 or 4K. And then like V6s, most V6s rev to like 65K, or that's where they set the REV limiter on them anyways, but they can actually rev like to 80. Some of them could rev to like 85 before they blow up or anything. But that's why they set the REV limiter where they set them significantly lower so they don't blow up. Okay. A little 4-cylinder, they usually set those REV limiters between 65 and 75K, but they can rev to like 8 or 9 if you without blowing up. Well, sometimes they will, but you get what I'm trying to say. They've spent all this money and hours and torture testing their engines so they know where at what RPMs it'll cause damage, and then like I said, they set the REV limiter below that. That's a common fact. You could look it up, you could watch videos on it, you could Google it, you could talk to everyone you know that knows anything about anything. Just kidding, they'd have to know a lot about cars and engines, as do I. I do my research, I've talked to people, I've watched videos, I've done testing myself. I torture the shit out of this. I've hit the REV limiter. Well, when I was driving, I hit it all day, every day, for like the last 6 or 7 years. Every time I drive it, it's on the REV limiter, along with everything else I've ever drove, and none of them have ever been damaged or blown up. I've put water through this, I've put diesel through this, I've put kerosene on it, through it, and it doesn't smoke, the rings aren't fried, it starts right up, still has a shit ton of power, it runs super smooth. So, I'm going to show you guys what a REV limiter is. If you were to try to hit REV limiter on a old vehicle that is carbureted and has a distributor and it doesn't have any engine control management like a ECM or ECU, then yes, it'll blow it up because it does not have a REV limiter, because there's nothing there to... A REV limiter, when you hit a REV limiter, it either starts to cut the spark or fuel, Or if you have a diesel, it'll cut the fuel. Therefore, it will not over rev because the manufacturers have set it to that safe point. Okay? So, let's say you have something like this. These have governors so they won't over rev. Like all these edgers, all these lawnmowers, this pressure washer, they do not have rev limiters. If you were to manually open the throttle, they will rev until they blow up or cause some serious damage. Okay, this truck, you hold it at wide open throttle, it will not damage itself because it will not over rev to a dangerous point. Same with this generator. This generator cuts the spark at a certain RPM because it has a management system for the ignition. Okay, you talk about your cars from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even some cars, probably even the 80s, don't have rev limiters. Rev limiters really start becoming common until fuel injection, although there is like throttle body injected stuff that probably does have rev limiters, but I could be wrong on that. But you really don't probably want to test a rev limiter out unless if it's a vehicle from the 90s and older, early 90s, when things really started. But I'm sure there's cars from the 80s and 70s that maybe had rev limiters. So, let me show you what a rev limiter is. And you can hold a rev limiter there for days. Some things, especially if you got nice clean healthy oil or a nice clean air filter, you won't have to worry. Well, first I'm going to start this thing up. Then I'm going to take the cover off and show you guys some real deal McGillicuddy rev limiter. Gonna hit that rev limiter a few more times, huh? We'll check for normal operation.